It is somehow already September, which means we need to wrap up August. I read 7 books in August. I know this is not 7, we'll get to it, but I did read 7 books, which I feel very proud of. It was my last semester of college. I've been studying for an exam, so 7 books to me is an accomplishment. And we're also going to briefly run through a couple of the books that I want to read in September, but I don't really make formal TBRs, but it's just a couple things that I got on my mind off the top of my head. Starting off with the most boring, I finished The Let Them Theory, which I'm pretty sure I started in February of this year. I just finally finished it, read the audiobook, and I liked it. I feel like with any self-help book, there's going to be things that you can resonate with and things that you can't. I feel like for the most part, I could resonate with this, and I do think that I got a lot of good takeaways from this. But I also feel like there are things that I've developed already through my time, like exposing myself to social media and stuff like that. I feel like a lot of the tactics in this I've already been doing, but there's nothing wrong with improving those things. I don't rate nonfiction, but I think it's worth the read, especially if you're somebody who tends to think a lot about what others think of you. I actually did go back and read books 1 through 3 of the Sparrow Falls series by Catherine Cowles. I had started by reading books 4 and 5 and decided to go back because I really liked them. And these are romantic suspense books, but definitely heavy on the romance, less on the suspense. I've been really into romantic suspense lately, so that's just been what I've been drawn to. I love Sparrow Falls, and if you didn't know, Sparrow Falls basically follows the Coulsons, and it's like a big family of kids that were taken in through foster care and things like that and were adopted into this family, and we're following different siblings in every single one of the books, and they always have been through like traumas. That's why they're in foster care, that's why that they're in the Coulson family, and then usually the people that they end up with relationships with have also been through trauma. It's very hard for me to like go into detail in each book because honestly, because I read them back to back to back, I kind of forget a lot of like details of each book. Like I remember the couples and I remember the basis of their traumas, but because I read them all just like back to back, all 5 books, I kind of get like some of the couples and some of the traumas and some of the situations confused. But I can give you my ratings, and I can tell you that I really, really love the series. I gave Fragile Sanctuary 4 stars, which is book 1. I gave book 2 4 stars as well. That's Delicate Escape. And then Broken Harbor, which is the 3rd book, I gave 4.5 stars. And I do remember that one a little bit better. And that one is like a romance between one of the Coulsons, which is a professional hockey player, and then a girl who lives in Sparrow Falls who owns like a bakery. And the thing is with this is I can't really tell you the basis of these people's traumas, because if I do, it spoils it, considering you kind of get like mystery elements throughout the other books of what these characters have gone through. So like the whole premise is that you don't know why they are the way they are until you get to their book. So I'm not going to go into it too much, but I really love the series. I love the vibes. It gives small town in the mountains, kind of like, it gives like Colorado vibes. I don't remember exactly where Sparrow Falls is, but like I said, definitely more heavy on the romance than the suspense. But what I love about romantic suspense is that the end of the book, like in a normal romance book, you usually can count on there being a 3rd act breakup of some kind, like just a conflict that feels unnecessary. But in romantic suspense, the conflict is usually like somebody getting kidnapped or somebody's horrible ex from the past coming back for them. Like, you know, it's just like usually something fun and cool, not something like annoying, which is why I love romantic suspense. And we have to talk about Chasing Forever because I love this. This is the 4th book in the Daisy Ranch series, but I don't think you need to read them in order. I did give this book 5 stars. I've not read any of the rest of the books, so clearly you don't have to read them in order. In this book, our main characters wake up and they are married and don't remember anything from the night before. They're married in Vegas, and he just happens to be her ex-fiance's brother, so they're in a bit of a situation. But the catch is he's always been in love with her, like forever, and like she's had inklings, but like he has loved her, and he takes this as an opportunity to maybe get her to finally open up and give him a chance. So he basically says, hey, I'll go on a couple days with me. If you still don't want to be with me after that, we'll get an annulment. And it is just like a really fun, once again, a small town feeling. It was fast paced. I read this book in less than a day. I did not want to put it down. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend. It just came out very recently, so it's brand new, and I feel like you would love it. I'm just hoping the author eventually makes covers to match the cover that I saw when I read it, because the rest of the covers don't match it, and I don't want to order just that one and not have the covers to match in the other books. So I'm not sure what's happening with the covers. I need to talk to her. And lastly, we're going to get into another romantic suspense series that I've been reading, which is the Men and Monsters series by Mia Sheridan. I am absolutely obsessed with these right now. I've never read Mia Sheridan. I know she's very popular for Archer's Voice, but I started with Unwanted. I was going to just go right into Unnatural, which is the 2nd book in the series, because I got it as an ARC and I wanted to read it before it came out. But then I didn't feel like reading a physical book at the time. So I ended up picking book 1 up on my Kindle, which is Unwanted. And I'm so glad I did, because you definitely should read these in order. If you don't read them in order and you just start with book 2, you kind of immediately know what's happening in book 1, whereas the whole mystery element of book 1 is you don't really understand what's going on. It's better to read them in order. This book is like taking Black Mirror, Criminal Minds, and Survivor and like mixing it all together and adding a sprinkle of romance into it. It is so intense. You have multiple perspectives. You have a boy who is looking like he's in some kind of weird ritual, but then he ends up getting pushed off a cliff and he ends up in the wilderness, and he ends up growing up in the wilderness with only one person that kind of like helps him a little bit, but he thinks that there's a war happening like outside of the forest, so he just stays there and he grows up without any social interactions. And then you have a girl who basically has felt alone in this town ever since she was a child, because her parents passed away in a car accident and she's just been in the foster system. And then you have an agent who is on the case of a bunch of murders happening in that small town. So it is a lot going on, and in the beginning I was extremely overwhelmed, but it all comes together and this was phenomenal. I ended up giving this book 4.5 stars. I finished it very quickly, I think within a day, maybe 2. I cannot say enough good things about these. These are definitely heavier on suspense and thriller than romance, but there is very touching romance. The only reason it wasn't a 5-star is because the romance element gave me a bit of an ick at times, only because he is very like, he seems very juvenile because he didn't grow up around civilization. So when he's interacting with females, like it's very young sounding, so like any kind of spice just kind of felt icky to me, but that's just me. That's just how I felt. They are all consenting adults. And then that brought me to book 2, which I can't tell you too much about because I don't want to spoil anything from the first book. But we do have our female main character who has grown up in a hospital being treated for something that apparently babies born from people who did this certain drug when they were pregnant would birth children that were just severely ill. And so she's grown up in a hospital being treated for this her whole life. She has no family. Her parents abandoned her, like all of that. She keeps having these vivid dreams where she sees this boy with like white hair, and it's just very confusing. She doesn't understand. Apparently these dreams are normal for people with her condition and on the meds that she's on. And then we have another perspective, which is the boy with the white hair. You do get a very different vibe in this book than the other one. I almost want to say it's similar in terms of it being like Criminal Minds, Black Mirror, but then instead of Survivor, you're getting like Stranger Things, Kids in the Lab situation. So it is very, very cool. I absolutely loved both of these books. I'm technically not done this, but I'm including it because I basically read the entire thing in August and I've just saved like the last 80 pages and I'm probably going to finish this today or tomorrow. So I'm putting it into my August wrap up. I just think that it makes sense. Now, September is going to be an interesting month because the first half is me just studying like crazy. Like I will barely be reading most likely because this exam is in less than 2 weeks now and I am like panic studying at this point, but I'm trying to devote like a minimum of 6 to 8 hours a day to studying, which means there's not a lot of time to read, balancing the other things in my life like work and my relationships. So reading will probably take a bit of a back burner. I am going to still attempt to post, but I'm not going to put any pressure on myself with it. But there are a couple books in mind for after the exam that I am ready to read. Like it is now feeling like fall. Today was like the last hot summer day I think we're gonna have, so I'm ready for the fall vibes. I do want to reread Wild Reverence by Rebecca Ross. I got an ARC for it and it did just come out today. I loved it when I read it as an ARC. I like on my Kindle I was obsessed and it was a 6-star read for me, infinity star read. So I want to read my ARC and annotate it, and I'm going to listen to the audiobook at the same time, which I'm so excited for because I love tandem reading fantasy. It is my favorite way to read fantasy. I do also want to read Catabasis because I've never read a R.F. Kuang book, and this is like an academia style fantasy, which I'm very excited for because I love like dark academia, academia fantasy. Those are like my favorite way to read fantasy as well, and I'm hoping to tandem read that one too, but I haven't decided. And speaking of tandem, I had started Shield of Sparrows before my reading slump back in like April, and I had read like 30% of it and I was loving it, but then I got hit with the slump and just wasn't in the mood for fantasy. So Shield of Sparrows I will be tandem reading. I already got the audiobook for it, so I'm definitely going to just finish that. I might restart it just because I've taken so many months off and I'm going to tandem read anyways, so I'll get through it pretty quick. Definitely Shield of Sparrows is on the list for my September TBR. Wild Card by Elsie Silver is on there because it's the last book in Rose Hill and I've loved every book in that series, so obviously I have to read those. I just got The Good Girl Effect by Sarah Kate from Sourcebooks and I love Sarah Kate, so that's going to be a very quick, easy read. So I'm definitely hoping to get that in as well. But that's kind of it. That's just like my loose TBR. I don't want to go into too much because I never stick to a TBR. I just read whatever I'm in the mood for. I want to read Feeders by Caleb Stevens. That's the last one I'm going to say. Feeders by Caleb Stevens. I have it on my Kindle. I'm ready to read it. So we've got a great month ahead of us. I cannot wait for this exam to be over. I am hoping to do like a book shopping vlog after my exam, depending on like where my financial situation is at that time. There's a bookstore in the city that I have to go to write the exam. So even if we just go browse, I'm very excited and I'm hoping to maybe vlog that, but it depends. I might just be present in the moment. I haven't decided. Anyways, that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching and I will see you in the next video.